When people think about the creative legacy of the Beatles, the spotlight usually falls on the legendary songwriting partnership of John Lennon and Paul McCartney. Together, they created some of the most influential songs in modern music history, tracks that defined the sound of the 1960s and reshaped the possibilities of pop songwriting. But their catalog wasn't written only for themselves. Over the years, Lennon and McCartney occasionally crafted songs specifically tailored for the distinctive personality and voice of their bandmate, Ringo Starr. While Starr was never known as a prolific songwriter during the Beatles' years, his warm baritone voice and everyman charm gave certain songs a character that neither Lennon nor McCartney could replicate. Even after the band's dramatic breakup in 1970, that creative generosity didn't disappear entirely. In fact, one of the most fascinating chapters in post-Beatles history came just a few years later, when all four former bandmates briefly found themselves orbiting the same project again, Starr's 1973 solo album, Ringo. In the early 1970s, the former Beatles were navigating their solo careers with varying degrees of distance from one another. Publicly, tensions from the breakup still lingered, particularly between Lennon and McCartney. Yet behind the scenes, the personal relationships were already beginning to thaw. Two of the first former Beatles to reconnect musically were George Harrison and Starr. In 1970, Starr appeared as a drummer on several tracks from Harrison's monumental triple album, All Things Must Pass, including the electrifying Wah Wah and the global hit, My Sweet Lord. Their collaboration continued in the following years, with Harrison quietly co-writing and producing Starr's 1971 breakthrough single, It Don't Come Easy, followed by the swaggering Back Off Boogaloo in 1972. By the time Starr began work on Ringo in 1973, he had become something unexpected, the former Beatle most capable of bringing the others together. The album slowly evolved into a remarkable near reunion. Harrison contributed multiple songs and guitar parts, Lennon agreed to participate, and eventually McCartney also joined the project. Although the four never appeared together on a single track, the album remains the only solo record to feature contributions from all four former Beatles. According to Starr, convincing McCartney wasn't particularly complicated. With Lennon and Harrison already involved, he reportedly joked to Paul, "You don't want to be left out, do you?" I'm the Greatest, written by John Lennon. One of the most fascinating songs written for Starr during this era came from Lennon himself. I'm the Greatest, written during Lennon's experimental early 1970s period, was recorded in March 1973 at Sunset Sound Studios in Los Angeles. The session became historically significant because it marked the first time Lennon, Harrison, and Starr had played together since the Beatles' breakup. Lennon sat at the piano and provided backing vocals, Harrison added guitar, and Starr took the lead vocal. The song itself is a witty, self-aware piece of rock theater. Its lyrics follow a narrator who reflects on growing up in Liverpool, rising to fame in the greatest show on earth, and eventually settling into ordinary life as a husband and father. Though Lennon originally imagined performing the song himself, he quickly realized that Starr's personality made it far more entertaining. Sung in Starr's unmistakable deadpan delivery, the song feels like a humorous, slightly surreal reflection on Beatlemania and the strange journey from working-class Liverpool to global superstardom. Today, many historians view the track as one of the closest moments to a Beatles reunion in the early 1970s. 6 O'Clock, written by Paul McCartney and Linda McCartney. The second major Lennon-McCartney contribution to the Ringo album came from Paul and his wife, Linda McCartney.
6 o'clock in the morning, you've just gone to sleep.
6 O'Clock. By 1973, McCartney was deep into his post-Beatles career with Wings, but he still maintained a close personal friendship with Starr. When Starr asked if Paul could contribute a song for the album, McCartney agreed, though he reportedly delivered it just in time for producer Richard Perry's Wednesday deadline. Co-written by Paul and Linda, 6 O'Clock was carefully crafted around Starr's relaxed vocal style. Rather than pushing him into a complex melodic range, McCartney wrote a warm, conversational pop tune that felt perfectly suited to Ringo's voice. Even Paul and Linda joined the recording session to sing backing vocals alongside Starr. The opening lyric famously reads,
6 o'clock in the morning, you've just gone to sleep.
Years later, Starr recalled how accurately his former bandmates understood him as a performer. "They knew me so well," he once said. "They would write songs they felt I could get away with." It was a simple statement, but it captured something essential about the Beatles' dynamic. Lennon and McCartney weren't just brilliant songwriters, they were incredibly perceptive collaborators who knew exactly how to shape a song around a performer's personality. A small but meaningful legacy. Although Lennon and McCartney wrote dozens of songs together during the Beatles' career, only a handful were specifically intended for Starr's voice. During the Beatles era, classics like With a Little Help from My Friends and Yellow Submarine had already proven that Starr could deliver unforgettable performances when given the right material. The songs written for him during the early 1970s continued that tradition. More importantly, they represented something deeper. Despite lawsuits, public disagreements, and the emotional fallout of the band's breakup, the musical bond between the four Beatles was never entirely broken. For a brief moment in 1973, on one humble solo album, their creative chemistry resurfaced again. Not as the Beatles, but close enough for fans to feel the magic one more time.